Every village has its own character and uniqueness. While there are common geographical features and social traits that are identifiable amongst the different hamlets, any keen observer will notice that every village has its own distinct features, and there are certain elements that stand out in the neighborhood, in the local flora and fauna, in the heritage, culture, natural features, and in the man-made structures. The southern slopes of the Khasi Hills, better known as the Rewar area, is a treasure trove of an interesting way of life that has continued for generations despite the pressure and influence of external forces. The people carry on with their lives adhering to the tradition and culture handed down by their forefathers. Some Khasi villages have undergone a drastic change in the social life and belief system, while others remain the same, deep-rooted, albeit a few superficial adjustments which are more of a strategic adaptation rather than a surrender to a foreign culture and ethos. We are on a journey to find out the first documented route bridge and a trail undertaken in 1841 by a young engineer of the East India Company, Lieutenant Henry Yule. We hope to trace the ancient Henry Yule Trail that till today is unheard of in the public domain. The popular David Scott Trail is a well-constructed cobblestone path that befits a highway in those days where there were no roads for vehicles. However, the Henry Yule Trail was undertaken along the ancient tribesman track that extended from Mausmai to Ryngud and Laitiam and beyond. It's a beautiful day, this November sun, and we are here in Ryngud village for one basic reason: to trace the trail made by Lieutenant Henry Yule, who discovered something amazing for the very first time here between Ryngud and Laitiam village. It is here that we encountered the men who lifted and carried a single beam of wood more than double their weight. What we had heard of and read about was about to unfold before our eyes. It is kind of unbelievable that these lean-built men could achieve such a feat. This block of wood is at least 90 kilos, and we've seen that size does not matter, but the men of Ryngud village have carried this for 2 hours, and they might be small but very strong. We moved on with our focus solely on the trail that would lead us to our destination. Interestingly, the route took us through some of the most unique pathway. It was a big surprise to find along the way a massive tree called Deng Rai in the local language. This was a giant that must have been at least 5 feet in diameter and around 70 feet in height. Further down the way, another giant stood high and tall. This was known as Deng Tar locally. I felt that it was a privilege to witness these giant organisms and thought that all the credit goes to the Ryngud community for preserving these rare giants rarely found nowadays in the center of the village. As we made our way through the pavement, we came across circular stone slabs, both big and small, that have been abandoned and their function and form no more relevant to the village. These were the ossuaries or maush-ing as the Khasis call them. The bulk of the maush-ing were located some distance away from the trail. Apparently, Ryngud has the majority of circular shaped ossuaries from amongst the villages in the vicinity, but the fact that the village no longer has any members of the indigenous Khasi religion accounts for these stones losing their relevance in Ryngud. It was a common practice amongst the Khasis in the olden days and even today to inter the bones of the dead in these ossuaries or stone receptacles. What we see here is a burial ground, and there's a collection of these circular slabs of stone which signify the burial ground and where the forefathers of Ryngud village inter the bones of the dead after cremation in these stone ossuaries. This place is much in disrepair, and this is truly a heritage site which needs to be preserved. However, they are to be seriously considered as heritage sites where one can trace the tradition and culture in the society. Culture is about symbols and about beliefs and values of a people in a certain area, and these are inseparable. These megalithic symbols are an important legacy that has been passed on by the forefathers to the generations after. Ryngud is a green village in every sense. It is clean with tidy manicured courtyards in front of cute small tin roof cottages that invite you to take photographs of almost every one of them. It's a medium-sized village amidst a verdant landscape, but what impressed us most is its cleanliness and the calm freshness and quiet beauty that warmly welcomes one and all. The economy is basically horticulture, with most of the families dependent on production of bay leaf, broom grass, betel nut and betel leaf besides other crops. The villagers are hard-working people, and we observed that the land is the main source of livelihood for the villagers.
Just a few steps in the village, we've come to this place where you can see behind me this majestic landscape. Over there, it's Kudmadan. This is Sokmi village. Maukliao village on the other side of the ridge. That is Maulatang, Tirngai, Suktia village. These are the villages opposite the Cherrapunji plateau.
For generations, the relationship of man and his ecosystem was that of a symbiotic one, a mutualism that is reflected in the structures and the villagers' ingenuity in meeting the challenges of the difficult and hilly terrain. These are resilient people who have the qualities of perseverance, determination, and grit ingrained in their DNA.
Kapaningkong ban kentiu ya kasinong katao bad banrat dingkong ya kanika jing jaklia jong sinong kitao bad wanra ya ka jingku jing suba ha kasinong katao hibaro kawai naka liang jong kasinong hibaro kawai ka jing thumu jongi ban wanra ha ka liang ka pule ka puthi bad ha ka liang jong ki jing trei jing ta akaliang ban penbit penbiang ya kasinong hibarok kawai na kaliang kesorkal ada don bangin wanra ban hapo sinong po tau ban penroy ya ke imlang kasalang.
On this trail, we met a few of these women working here, and we've come across this basket called jadeb in the local language, and it has a betel nut, betel leaf, famous here in the Khasi Hills. A container having lime, where they mix the lime with the betel leaf, and a small container which they put their tobacco in and tuck it in their mouth. So this is something which is very common here in Ryngud.
We continue on a journey that Henry Yule most probably passed through in 1841 as a young man. We saw the similar terrain and the crops grown as described in his journal some 170 years ago, except that the indigenous bamboo drip irrigation, which he mentioned in his writing, was missing. The reasons for not using bamboo drip irrigation were more than one, and the most probable causes are the change in cropping pattern, where bamboo grass cultivation took precedence over other crops like oranges and betel leaf that needed more of the drip irrigation, and the shifting of residents from the old village to an area which had more fertile land was another likely cause.
So along this trail, what we have come across is these leaves which grow abundantly here. These are not cultivated but grow wild. And they use this, for your knowledge, they use this as packaging wraps to wrap their food, rice, meat, vegetables. These leaves, in the local language, they call them lamet, and these fetch quite a good price in the markets. This is the old Ryngud village, and this is probably where Lieutenant Henry Yule came across this village. And this was once a thriving community here. And up ahead you can see the circular slabs of stones, the ossuaries. But nothing much remains here except for these betel nut trees. Nobody knows why the people, the community here shifted to that new Ryngud village. But there are various tales and stories which the villagers here till date talk about.
From the remains of the old Ryngud village, we followed the trail closely and drew closer to our place of interest. We were welcomed by a few men of Laitiam village along the way. Henry Yule certainly did walk this very path and discovered for the very first time the root bridge structure which goes down in history as the first recorded and documented living bridge in the Khasi Hills.
We've reached the border between Ryngud and Laitiam village, and this is the river Umjiri. We are here to show you what we came here for. These are the remains of the first living root bridge in the Khasi Hills, documented in the Asiatic Journal of Bengal by Lieutenant Henry Yule in the year 1841.
The Ryngud Laitiam living bridge or Jinkeng Wa Umjiri, which the young Henry Yule described as a living bridge and something never published before, was no more, but the dangeri or trees on either side of the river were still standing, and some semblance of the structure remained on the other river bank. The living bridge had been replaced by an iron structure upon which we walked across to the other side.
We've come to the other end of this root bridge because what we see here are parts of this root bridge, the first documented root bridge in the Khasi Hills, parts of which are still intact.
For one, the frequent change in the course of the river during the monsoons, and secondly, the decrease in usage and subsequently the lack of maintenance of the root bridge were the main reasons for the loss of the Jinkeng Wa Umjiri. However, all is not lost, and according to the Laitiam villagers, the bridge can be restored and made functional once again.
What you see here is a cane and bamboo family. It looks like a cable, but this is used in handicrafts where they tie the bamboo on the cane and wrap it around. And the handicrafts which you see in the markets are made of this, and this is grown specifically in Laitiam. In Khasi, they call it the three. This is so flexible. You can wrap it around anything. And this is the major source of income for the villagers of Laitiam village.
The next leg of our journey was even more interesting, and it had a number of surprises for us. The Henry Yule train being done, we were inspired and ready for some more trekking, some more discoveries, and many more stories to take home. Our guides from Laitiam told us that there were two more intact root bridges which we could visit if we wanted to. This was an opportunity not to be missed, and the team found renewed strength and vigor to move on. We stopped on the Wat Sopai Jinkingri after some 25 minutes of a comfortable walk. All along, the trail was a known one, which was frequently used by the villagers. There were not too many rough or difficult passages on the way.
This is another one of the indigenous bridges of Laitiam village. The length is about 15 meters, and this is a very old bridge over the river Wat Sopai, and they call this bridge the Jinkingri Wat Sopai. This is indeed something which needs to be treasured and preserved, and I never knew that there were so many root bridges in Laitiam before I came here.
From Wat Sopai Bridge, we climbed upstream across the boulders and rocks that were part of the river.
We are now coming to the second bridge, Jinking Jiri Wa Osten. Join me as I jump from rock to rock.
The water in this pristine environment was as expected, crystal clear and fresh. In the river pool below the Wa Osten, Jinking Jiri, I once again paid homage to Mother Nature and performed my son of the soil ritual of being one with the ecosystem, of immersing myself in the cool, transparent waters of the river Wa Osten. As I swam, a part of me was left behind forever in the water and the forest around me, much to my satisfaction. This was a journey of discovery and something that will remain in my memory for a very, very long time. It took us some 30 minutes on our way back to Laitiam village, passing through the forest track that connected to a concrete pavement constructed recently and leading towards the village center. We interacted with the young and old of the village who were friendly and at ease with us.
Halo yang ketika jing pentri kami ya ka tourism po kasinong jungi kasinong jungi kalong kasinong kaba ikanat pat kasinong ru kabadon sibun ki benta ki biadai kamtam ha kaliang jong ka tourism kamtam kini ki belong ya ka eco tourism te nalo tangidon ki ksat le si ngilap dong bahapok sora kasinong layam kadon ki ksat ki buntam ki ba kim duna ya ka nyau la ni prateli shu ngid ya ka sinong Laitiam la kerkut ru da kiwa na bro saudong kiwa ru kalong ki bakhuat ki basngur banalo nang ta pa diru hakalyang ka sinong jungi ngidon ru ya kini ki jingking jeri arteli ki badang ne nang sa kat hadu mentamani bat kidon ru kini ki jingking jeri kumba sa arteli ki bangidang temu syakmat nagbantaban kampen pha shu namar ba ha ka jingam ayu kedon ka bala ingno ti shu kan ni kai lain ti tracking ke jongi na syadu syaksya no sngityang ru kejak sya no sitiang ru kawai na ka banta jong ka tourism ke jongi ka bangidon ke jing temu ti kan ni ka tracking nang ni na po sinong jongi sa po sya no sitiang ru ka ya ka rut wa jong kan ni ka wa no sngityang ti nagalan jongi kini ki tracking ru kidon bun teli ki jakat tracking ka trekking ka banang ni siapo sobar ngidon nang ni siata siapo Ryngud ngidon di nang ni ladang ngilek trekking siata siapo kut madan kal tikut madan ngidon nang ni siapo mosmar ngidon ti kal trekking dengi ndiru kadon duna yaka sau santeli kibayasno yagi sinong baper kibadon saudong jong ka sinong Laitiam.
We discuss with the village elders and the headman on various issues concerning the general well-being of the village and in particular the tourism potential of the village, which was located just below the popular Nosngi Thiang Falls, better known as the Seven Sisters Falls. We were invited to a school which was celebrating the end of the year with a colorful occasion. It was a mix of music, fashion and entertainment for the village folk. It was an eye-opener to see, even in this remote and far corner of the Khasi Hills, the people were much informed and the young were well versed with popular culture of the cities and the rest of the world. The Laitiam Student of the Year event was a statement that the spread of internet and communication has bridged the distance between the urban and the rural as mobile technology becomes easily available in every village and accessible by everyone. There are no rules as social media and the world of mobile applications cut through social and cultural boundaries.
We've come to the end of the day, and what better way to end than to witness the Student of the Year competition here in this Presbyterian LP school in Laitiam. Every village tells a story. I hope this village is an interesting story for you viewers. Until we meet again in another village, goodbye.